Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Arena STL here on the Fuel Sports Network. We're getting down to almost the final part of arena football season and just getting close there. And we got two leagues left here with the Indoor Football League and the Arena League. Usually, I would start with the Indoor Football League and go to the Arena League, but there's going to be something in between the two that I wanted to discuss here. But we're going to start with the Arena League here. The inaugural season of the Arena League starts its playoff push here. And there was a little bit of an announcement that happened right after our show here last Tuesday. And it was due to the arena again for the Kansas City Goats. And I have the statement here. News regarding our next home game. The Kansas City Goats have been working closely with Municipal Auditorium the past 4 weeks to monitor neither players to the floor that prevented our last home game from being played. So yeah, it's still having floor problems with the rear. We still don't know what caused it. Was it the weather? Was there some type of structural integrity? Or heck, let's put another possibility that strangely could be vandalism, but nothing or so. We don't know what's wrong with the floor with the auditorium that the Kansas City Goats have been using since the beginning of the season. The Goats will play remaining scheduled games in Kansas City. And basically, they have decided the only thing they could get was not an indoor arena, but a way that was kind of inventive, if you will. They actually played outside on a high school field at St. Pius, Kansas City. I have to say St. Pius, Kansas City, because there's actually two St. Pius X high schools in Missouri, one in KC, obviously, and the other one, which is actually close near me, in Kansas City, Festus. So I actually have videos of what the actual field looks like here from that game here. Just a moment.
And for bragging rights, trying to battle for pride as they're pretty well locked into that third seed, and they'll be going on the road next week in the first round of the postseason, all the way up to Duluth. But good news for Coach Bruffett and company is it looks like a lot of these starters are back tonight, including their quarterback Ronnie Bertelsmeyer. There was a lot of speculation, a lot of And it is the Arena League like you have never seen it here in Kansas City. The third and final showdown of the Battle of the Show Me State, Missouri, as the Goats and the Lunkers take place under the lights here at St. Pius X High School in Kansas City, Missouri. Indoor football outside in the great outdoors. Aaron, no better place we would rather be on a Saturday. The regular season finale.
Some of these throw-offs. We'll see if that is any sort of an issue.
What a inaugural season it has been so far for the Arena League, for all four teams showing out, and no better way to cap it off in the regular season. The most unique game by far. Crowd getting fired up, trying to get behind the hometown Goats. Looking to take this rubber match against the Lunkers. The battle of the pair of Show Me State teams. Waiting for the official signal. I know Malik Wilson's ready to return this one. Now it looks like Kendrick Payne's ready to throw it off, and it's in the air, and we are underway here at St. Pius High School as it's taken in, cutting out to the far.
So, as you've seen from the videos, what they actually did is kind of had like a wall format with like dasher boards and stuff, but makeshift walls. Had it start like in the middle of the high school field at Kansas City Pius X. And it was kind of interesting how they did the like kicking and all that stuff with the. Oh wait, I forgot. That reminds me. There's no need for it because they just do throw-ups like they did there. Got confused with indoor football league. Sorry about that. So there was no need for field goal posts and that type of such. So it's kind of interesting. And can we normalize more outside from and call it what it is? Ironman football. Yeah, that's what basically arena football is. What the original concept arena football is, Mike. So, uh, like, like I wish that because originally for Arena Football League they did do Ironman, but then switched up a bit. So now there's actually more of like these players play on offense, they play on defense. But I hope they go more to Ironman football setup and Heck, I remember one or two high school games I actually had to do Ironman football. I mostly played on defense, but then there was a few games I had to both do double duty on offense and defense. But let's move on. And it was actually pretty interesting how they did that. And they had actually a deal for students of that high school get in for free, and they actually had a pretty good crowd, about 2,500, which is actually pretty good for especially for an outdoor arena game. And there was actually there was a league, I won't mention the name because it was a scam, that they were actually going to have arena ball style outside. That's what it would look like, but they were needed to do field goals and all that stuff. But because how the arena league is set up, it would not be like that. So for this final season game of the Battle of the Show Me State, the Kansas City Goats overpowered the Lunkers 61-28. It wasn't even close. And they wanted just to have the number one seed. And we have to remember here, because I need to remind people that in the Arena League, their championship game is called Arena Mania. And it's kind of like a nice cup that I saw at the beginning of the show here a couple of weeks ago. But it's going to be interesting to see. And also have to remind people that the home office of the Arena League is in Kansas City, Missouri. So then you have the second game, Duluth versus the Iowa Woo, and Duluth continues their momentum and beats the Iowa Woo 45-21. And it's just how it is with that one, because like how I showed the standings last week, the number one seed, Kansas City Goats, number two, Duluth Harbor Monsters, three, Ozark Lunkers, four, the Iowa Woo. So they have not announced the dates yet for the two playoff games. Then they're going to play for the Arena Mania game. And I am not sure if that's going to be week after. And there's a reason I say this. And it's going to be interesting because also the game that's going to be the playoff game for Kansas City is going to be at the same venue, be outdoor as well. So they actually try to advertise to get more people to come and beat that 2,500 attendance for an outdoor arena game. Texas is the king of spring football 6v6. I love to see more kids from 6v6 play in this league. I think, yeah, if I remember, there is some small leagues. I know there's 8 man, then there, like how you suggest, Mike, 6v6. And be interested to see, though, there is a minor leagues here in Missouri and a few other states that do outdoor version of arena football, but there is no incline stuff. I think it's still played like it is in a regular football game. I have to double check that. Because there's a team called the Missouri Falcons nearby, but it's kind of interesting because there's also going to be like another type of team that owner's going to be with I believe it's going to be called either the St. Louis, Missouri Dirty Birds with I think it's Durrty, how it's spelled when I saw their page a few months back. So there's going to be different types of football, both outdoor and indoor, that might share some similar styles. So it's interesting to see what comes up next. Now, before we get to the indoor football playoffs, there is something that I must address, so complain about. Because during the whole weekend of the indoor football league, there was should I say, problems with streaming games, if you will, because throughout the entire season of indoor football league, it's usually on the indoor football league's YouTube page. But then they announced, it's strange how some arena leagues, it's just a few days before when they start the playoffs, they announced where their playoff games are going to be played on. Simmer, the Arena Football League, a few more days before the playoffs started, they announced the CBS network broadcasting games of partnership. Same thing here with the Indoor Football League, but with Stadium. To remind people, Stadium is kind of like that. They've been around for a few years, and they've been like the over-air. If you have digital antenna, and some streaming cable service has it, and it's been kind of like a up and down. It's owned by the owner of the Chicago White Sox, Chicago Bulls person. And it's kind of good. It does show a little bit of different stuff here, but this weekend, dear Lord, you thought some of the games from the Arena Football League played were not streamed properly. About every game had problems. Mostly the problem was, and this was for the first three games, for some reason it just stopped. It was still going up, but it just froze for a bit. Sometimes it lasted a minute, sometimes 30 seconds or a few seconds. And it just got annoying for the most part. The second game, I have no idea why, but it did not start on time. It didn't even start to almost the end of the first quarter. And that was like, it was, and for how, if you don't have a digital antenna to see stadium, it's hard. And except for, of course, when I had Kevin on the show, some of these teams had local broadcasts like they do in Vegas. And it just was not good at all. And especially, oh, boy. The one thing that kind of caused me concerned is, and I talked to a few other people and showed them this, that they actually scheduled the Saturday games in reverse order for a few days until it got corrected the day of. And that was like, well, they fixed it. But then that was the first thing that's kind of like, you know how what times these games play, especially if the time zone that the games are played in. And it was just not good at all. And the worst was the last game. The last game, which will that also be the last one we talk about, which is the San Diego and Bay Area Panthers game. My God, if you would have it, the frame rate was all over the place. It felt like I was watching a game with dial-up speed. Sometimes you could hear, sometimes the audio was like, no, this is gonna be a good game. Touchdown Panthers. Like it sounded so softly when they're actually supposed to speak in normal volume most of the game. And it was just like generating all over the place. Like all of a sudden, like starts here, then it ends up here real quick. It was just all over the place. And then the game clock did not show didn't even show up on the scoreboard on the screen until 2 minutes into the fourth quarter. And it was so bad that even after all the games were played, Indoor Football League came out with a statement. Yeah. And this was by the commissioner, Todd Tyron. I want to send out a sincere apology to our fans, sponsors, teams, and especially the Stadium Network. Despite an unbelievable weekend of playoff football, which it was, and we'll get that to in a few minutes, we failed to produce the standard of production that's helped make our league a growing success. We take full responsibility for the streams that the IFL produces. We will work through the week to address our problems in preparation for a must-see conference championship weekend. Thank you for your continued support as we continue our march toward the 2024 IFL National Champion, Commissioner Ty Tryon. Like, it's interesting because like there hasn't been a lot of problem with the streams on YouTube from the Indoor Football League, though. I do have to mention there were a few in the beginning in March. There was one game that I saw that had like staticky with the audio sounded like this, like that about almost a quarter to the halfway through the game. So it's interesting how this happened because I have to remind people, Stadium is paying the Indoor Football League for the stream, and I'm kind of wondering what the heck happened. Now, the last game, a lot of people say it's because of how that arena is in San Jose that the Bay Area Panthers played. And seriously, when that whole game, I was like, please let the Strike Force win so we don't have this problem next week. And I'll explain that kind of got my wish for that here in a little bit. It was just insane of how bad it was. Like for a few Arena Football League games, there were some that didn't have sound at all, but at least the frame rate was good. And sometimes you didn't see a scoreboard with some of the arenas, especially the one for Oregon and I believe Iowa for those. But it was just insane because this isn't the first time the Indoor Football League and Stadium have worked together, because they have worked together in the past, the last few years. Even excuse me. They even had their championship game on Stadium. I believe, what was it? It was either, was it 2017 or 19? It's one of the 2 years that they did on there. Have to look back on that. But right before we talk about the four playoff games of exciting playoff weekend and actually kind of heartbreaking for most, we'll take here a little bit of break and be back here in a few.
Houston, we've triumphed. I've made it back to Earth with the cargo intact. The game-changing, time-sensitive payload is none other than the revolutionary energy flavor we've all been waiting for. Introducing Merc Mayhem Cherry Limeade. Merc Clan played a crucial role in securing this energy flavor, and together we've unlocked the future of power. Merc Mayhem is not just a drink, it's a statement, a fusion of relentless energy and bold flavor. The secret is out. Merc Mayhem is set to redefine the energy landscape, leaving ordinary drinks in its cosmic dust. Get ready for a taste explosion that matches Merc Clan's unparalleled power. Join the revolution, and let's unleash Merc Mayhem upon the world. Astronaut M signing off.
Same great taste. Yes, same great taste. Same great taste.
Be sure to check Kevin Kevin Wumble Jr.'s show, The Jersey King Show, here on Saturdays and also on Thursday evening. Now, I was pleasantly surprised with the IFL playoffs because during last week, me and Kevin had our picks here. And the first game we have is the Green Bay Blizzard versus the City Steamwheelers. And this game did not go as we have thought. Same outcome, but different way. Because Green Bay is honestly the top team in the league. They've only lost three and always was dominant and always was pretty dominant, even in close games. This one, they were not. And it could have, it seemed like there was a chance that Quad City would have upset the Green Bay Blizzard. Thankfully, Green Bay, they get the number one seed, stays in the East, and beats Quad City 34-23. Blizzard quarterback Max Myler had a good game. And it was just quite amazing because it ended at 34-23, but halftime it was 13-3 Green Bay. But the one thing that would pain me to see was the kicking game. Dear Lord, there were so many wide field goals, and Green Bay's kicker, of course, is Mizzou's thicker kicker, Harris Melphis' brother, and there was quite a few that went to wide left and stuff and such there, and it was like, dear Lord, can any of them actually kick into the small goalposts? And it was just crazy how the kicking game was. But Green Bay was able to tough it out and beat Quad City 34-23. Then the second game was kind of how you expect with the uh, Frisco Fighters and the Massachusetts Pirates, but in a different outcome because in these playoffs, we actually had a few upsets, being the first one here, and the Pirates beat the Frisco Fighters, and it was just a good back and forth common arena football game, fun to watch. Though there were some freezes there, like I mentioned before, with the streaming. And the Pirates QB Alejandro Bennyfield, 152 passing yards and 5 touchdowns, with their receiving core by Thomas Owens and Redding. Owens 56 yards, 3 touchdowns. Redding 35 yards, 1 touchdown. Actually, the most impressive one, because in indoor football, the rarest thing you can do is actually the rushing game. And Jimmy Robinson had almost 100 yards rushing with 94, 35 receiving, and a touchdown. And I actually did pick the Massachusetts Pirates to come with the upset. It was just amazing to see like how it was came to last minute with this game. The next game had our colleague here in Field Network, Kevin, who covers the Vegas Nighthawks, and this was something I don't think that either of us expected. Arizona to come in, and we have to remember Vegas is holding the Indoor Football League Championship, not only this year, but the next year. This was Vegas's first time in their franchise history, in their third year, to get into the playoffs. You got the young quarterback with Jerome Johnson, and an interesting storyline because with the Arizona Rattlers, you actually have their quarterback, Snead, that actually was the quarterback during the opening season for the Vegas Nighthawks. And it was a pretty good storyline because he actually left to join another team when he realized he wasn't the starter and became the starter for the Arizona Rattlers. And this game was really back and forth because you had one rushing touchdown here, one running. You even had a kickoff return shortly into the first quarter, and the crowd was rough and rowdy with the night because of how this is their first playoff game. And it was a very nice game. And the first half, you had Vegas winning 28-20. And then what causes the deal to for any team to lose momentum? Turnovers, especially 2 interceptions from Jerome Johnson. Man, it was not good in the second half for the Nighthawks, and Arizona was able to come back and score 39-38. And it just like you could tell that the Nighthawk players and the fans coach said were disappointed. Heck, like right after the game, the announcer for the Nighthawks said, "Let's congratulate our Nighthawks for an excellent season." Paraphrase, that's not exactly what he said, but kind of close. And the Nighthawks is going to be a team with a lot of momentum next season, and I'm pretty sure they'll do better next year, especially since I mentioned before, next year is the last year that they are going to be having Vegas to hold the national championship, whoever holds it, and that'll be good for a home type of team to do that to happen. Now comes to was the most problem game to watch, as I mentioned before, because dear Lord, like even though this game was fun when you actually could watch it, it just was just hard to follow, like I said, because you got players that one moment they're in this space and they're there. You can hardly hear the audio, and like the only way you could tell what the game time for the clock or the play clock is actually when the announcers announce it. And like I said, very low volume it was for most of the game. But it was just like I said, but overall, like if this was a normal circumstances, normal anything, it would be a fun game to watch if it wasn't just for the streaming problems. And you have the San Diego Strike Force beat the defending Bay Area Panthers 49-40. And it was just like an offensive shootout for most of the game. Because heck, the San Diego Strikes quarterback, Nate Doors, 15 for 32, 216 pass yards, 6 touchdowns. That's a good step, but here's a more interesting one for the wide receiver here. Arthur Jackson III, uh, 54 receiving yards, only had 5 receptions. 4 of them were touchdowns. Yeah. 4 of the 5 were touchdowns, and you got some 2 touchdowns from Walker here. And then the biggest game here that happened, because like the momentum went back and forth. But what sealed the deal for the San Diego Strike Force was 2 interceptions, and Strike Force was the only defense to get 2 turnovers. And it's sealed the deal by quarterback Elijah Bell. I think that's right. Interception to end the game within the 1 minute warning. And it besides the streaming issues, it was a good game to watch with all the stuff that was happening there. Now comes the interesting part here, because see, if you've noticed, as I said, of all the 4 games, only one home team in the playoffs won, which was the Green Bay Blizzard. So now for this weekend's conference championships for the Eastern, it's Green Bay versus Massachusetts, but that game is Friday night, like the first game, at 7 p.m. in Green Bay, of course. Then, of course, with both home seeds in the West losing, the one with the highest seed is Arizona Rattlers, and they will be hosting against the San Diego Strike Force. But that game, because I think this is mostly could be either its state arena availability, or after all, we have to remember right now, in every 4 years, the Summer Olympics is going on. So maybe they thought maybe they get more viewership on a Monday and a Friday. It's interesting to see. And that game will be on Monday night at 9:05 p.m. Central Standard Time. It'll be different on the West Coast. So it's going to be interesting here, because when you put these together, because even though the Blizzard is basically the number 1 team in the East and the league right now, and how close the Quad City, because with that team, most people agreed, including me and Kevin, they were just lucky to be in, because they were one of the more luckiest teams in the season that got into the playoffs. And between how the Blizzard did with with Quad City, then you got the Massachusetts Pirates, which has a lot of history, a lot of pedigree within arena football. You kind of feel like, does the Blizzard have the advantage, or is this going to be kind of even? Because of how momentum is, because Green Bay should be glad they won, but barely. Barely. So that game is basically a coin flip, in my opinion, that's going to be played here on Friday evening. Then you got the 2 lower seeds of each game in the Western Conference. Arizona Rattlers versus San Diego Strike Force. It's going to be kind of interesting, because record-wise, Arizona has the advantage. But San Diego, they did beat the defending champion. So both games is basically a coin flip. So it should be kind of interesting how it goes here. Though it's going to be a late game, especially for being on a Monday night. And hopefully, they are able to do the streaming better for the stadium broadcast, because I don't know, I'm hearing conflicting reports for the indoor football championship game. It's either on Stadium, or I saw someone said it's on CBS Sports Network, but I'm like, you sure? Because they have that partnership arena football league, so they should announce that soon. So if I had to choose, I'll go with another upset. I'll have Pirates over the Blizzard. And then for Arizona and San Diego, I'll choose the Strike Force, since they did beat the defending champions over the Arizona Rattlers. So, because home field advantage doesn't seem to be an advantage here in this year's playoffs. Not at all. Not at all. And then from my 2 earlier picks, the 2 other games, I don't think I picked them for the Arena League. For the Outdoor Classic, because once again, it's going to be outdoor again. between the number 1 seed, the Kansas City Goats, and the number 4 seed, the Iowa Woo. I can't go against the GOAT. It's going to be the GOAT in a big victory type of deal. So it's going to be interesting since it is supposed, we're kind of in like a heat wave now in Missouri. It's supposed to cool down a bit. So it's going to be kind of interesting because that's another factor with most arena football players because you're inside a air temperature controlled stadium. And now that you're outside, now it comes to questions of like heat, humidity, and heck, who knows? There could be a spotty thunderstorm for all we know. So it's going to be interesting how that is. And as I mentioned before, for these 2 games, they have yet to announce. I'm going to assume it's still going to be on Saturday evening, but as of right now, they have not announced the times. Then you have the Duluth Harbor Monsters versus the Ozark Lunkers. Duluth has had very good momentum the last few weeks. Ozark, they have been just going down, 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 and down. It like I just see like both wavelengths continuing, and I have the Duluth Harbor Monsters being the Ozarks, which means for the Arena Mania, once again, that is the championship game for the Arena League. It's going to be the KC Goats versus the Duluth Harbor Monsters, and the question is by then, because will that game, because it's supposed to be played in Kansas City, will that game be outdoor or indoor? And like I said before, the arena the Goats are playing, there's something just wrong with the floor. And as I mentioned earlier this episode, we still don't know what caused the damage for the floor. Like, I wish someone could like either a worker or somebody, like I just would like to see the floor be like, is it like I said, is it because of environmental structural damage or did some idiot do something? It's kind of interesting. I'm kind of curious like what caused this for them to have this many problems, especially if it's just the arena floor. It's just quite amazing. So, review for the real league, I have the KC Goats being the Iowa Woo, the Duluth Harbor Monsters being the Lunkers, and then for indoor football league, I have the Pirates being the Blizzard, and I said, yeah, Arizona beats San Diego. And another thing too is because I have to double check because with the Olympics still going around, the Indoor Football League Championship will not actually be played the following weekend. It actually will play the one after that on August 17th. I don't know if that's the same for the championship game for the Arena League because do they want to want to avoid because all the viewership has gone to the Olympics or something else? It's interesting. We'll see here. And all I have to say is for the inaugural season of the Arena League, it's kind of interesting. You kind of get into it, but then like it just became so much with pitches and double passes, and they are adding 2 more teams with the Eau Claire Jammers, and I'm forgetting the city, but it's in Arkansas, and they just announced their new name called the Wise Guys, and the logo I don't like it kind of has like a called the Wise Guys. Kind of like, kind of with the Mafia deal with Goodfellas, though the logo is a horse with a suit. And I don't know, to me, it kind of has more of a reference to the movie of The Godfather than Goodfellas, but I digress. It's kind of interesting because with the Arena League, you kind of have a more interesting design with their logos and names. And it is different, like I said, with the Arena League, no kickers. And basically, it's mostly just receivers and the quarterback and running backs because there's not really much linemen. Not really much linemen. Heck, like if I was designing a team in a real league, I wouldn't have an actual center. I would have a long snapper on special teams to be my center. That does it for this week's edition of Arena STL. And it'll be interesting, like I said, playoffs again, and then pretty soon championships, and then we'll come to the end of indoor football here for 2024, and gonna be kind of interesting to see what happens because there'll be some, like I said before last week, you're going to have a merged league with National Arena League and the AIF. then you're going to have a second season as of right now with a treacherous season for Arena Football League, but able to recover and ended the way they did. So, and then with the Indoor Football League, they are adding another team, though it was a team that was actually went out of business, but they're bringing it back. So it's going to be interesting to see when it comes to Arena Football what news comes here, and especially because there was one city in Arena Football League that they wanted to get, but something, especially this one here, and to see if they try it again because, as I said last week, Jeff Fisher, they're doing an interview process and do proper vetting because Lee Hutton did not do that at all. Well, thank you for joining me this evening. See you all next week.